Hi, I'm Jeremy Yankee. Welcome to the Survivor Zone. Thank you for joining again this week. Last week we had 11 entries in the three contests that my group is a part of. All 11 entries survived, so that's a good thing. We came out of week one unscathed, but to be fair, most everyone did in every Survivor contest. So, we're on to week two, which is a good thing. It seems like it's a little tougher this week. There are some chalk picks. We'll get into all those and what my group decided on, but I'll kind of give you the rundown of what happened last week with Circa Survivor because that's the main focus of this podcast. Of course, we started with 18,718 entries. Last week they had 573 eliminations. The biggest casualty was people on the Patriots. They took out 269. But the surprising part was all 32 teams were used in week one. Then, of course, the dreaded no pick got 24 entries, didn't get their entry in last week, I should say. So it took us down to 18,145. It was the smallest number of entries eliminated percentage-wise in week one of Circa history. So just about 3.5% of the entries went down. So still a lot of people in the field, long way to go. So this week, my group, we struggled with which direction we wanted to go. There's a lot of different ways to go. Of course, we're holding 3 picks in there. We don't feel comfortable putting all 3 picks on one team, so we did mix it up a little bit. This week we went with 2 on the Ravens, which they're chalk. They're the biggest favorite on the board, 11.5, 12.5, wherever you're looking at that line, whatever day you're looking at it. So that was kind of an easy pick, I guess, or the easy way out, I should say. We also went 1 on the Dallas Cowboys. They're at home against the Giants, 5.5 down to a 4.5 point favorite. I don't like that the line moved a little bit. Cowboys a little bit more of a risky selection, but if you get into this week 2 selections, I'm looking at that. Surprisingly, a little bit, I guess. Well, the Cardinals are the number 1 selected team this week in Circa with 5,169 entries. They're about 28.5% of the field on the Cardinals. Of course, they're playing at home, 6 point favorite, roughly over the Carolina Panthers, who didn't look very impressive last week. Of course, the Panthers aren't very good. We know that. But putting your trust in Kyler Murray, a little sketchy too. But a lot of people on that. Now, I understand the reason for not as many people being on the Ravens. We talked about that. There's so many good selections on down the road with the Ravens, and that's why we wanted to go different on one of our selections. Hopefully, the Cowboys get through today, and then that selection will still hold the Ravens as a pick later on down the road. Of course, the 2 that we're taking them on today, assuming the Ravens survive, because we know they didn't survive week 2 last year when they lost at home to the Raiders as a big favorite. Can't see them losing at home today against the Browns. Should not happen. You never know. It's the NFL. Anything can happen. So that's what makes these contests so exciting. But Ravens were the number 2 pick on the board, 24.5% roughly. The Cowboys were the number 3 pick. And then on down the line, the Rams, Lions, on down. Several teams are used. I think 29 of the 32 were used. 1 selection on the Redskins, Commanders, whatever you want to refer to them as, on Thursday night. Of course, they went out. We did have 66 entries on the Packers. We didn't feel comfortable taking a Thursday night game this early. Still not sure about how teams are really going to play things out, but we stayed away from that game. But and then this week, probably the most surprising of all things, there was 19 entries that didn't get their pick in. So now we're up to 44 entries in this Circa Survivor that have not put a pick in on time, and now they're just eliminated by not doing so. So there's $44,000 of free money in the prize pool because of those people that struggle to get their picks in time for whatever reasons. I don't know. But so 2 entries on the Ravens today. Let's hope they get by the Browns, which they should, and then our sweat is probably going to be the Cowboys. Let's hope they can get a home win today. We felt like with the Cowboys, they're coming off a little longer rest because they played the Thursday night game. They got a bad taste in their mouth because, the way they lost to Philadelphia. I mean, they were right there in that game. They could have taken that game. But so hopefully with the extra rest, the extra motivation, don't want to start 0-2. They're at home, playing a division rival. We do like to avoid divisional games most of the time, but I say that, and then all 3 of our picks are on divisional games this week. It's just how it fell. Sometimes you just have to do it. But that's where we are on Circa this week. So hopefully those can get through. Now, with our Hard Rock in Cincinnati, they ended up with 153 entries in that contest. So $100 a pop. That's $15,300 in that prize pool. No rake there. Last week, 4 eliminations took place. There was 1 on New England and 3 on Chicago. So they're down to 149 going into week 2. So still a lot of the field left there. We got a little different in our other 2 contests. So Hard Rock and then our CBS Sports private one that we're in. We picked the same 4 teams in each of the contests, but we put 1 entry on each of them. So with Hard Rock, we've got an entry on the Rams. They're playing on the road, so it's a road team, but they're playing the Titans. Titans don't look very good, still rookie quarterback. Hopefully the Rams can get through there. We put an entry on the Steelers at home. Little risky pick. They're 2.5, 3-point favorites at home against Seattle. I think the Steelers are going to be a tough team to beat. Mike Tomlin's always got them well coached. Seattle has to make the trip across the country, play on the East Coast, play the 1 o'clock start, so we kind of feel good about that one. We also took 1 on the Cardinals. Of course, we talked about that being the number 1 selection for Circa Survivor this week. So honestly, if we lose that entry, can't be real upset because 5,000 some entries are going to be out of Circa if we lose that one. So if I have to lose one today, let it be the Cardinals. That's what I should say. The Cowboys was our other pick. So we have the Cowboys in all 3 contests. But we did want to save Baltimore for the other 2 contests, so we've not used them. We've got them available to all 4 of our picks, assuming those picks survive today. So we got a little different in those. Tried to spread picks around. There's 4 entries in each. They're lower numbered contests. Like I said, there was 153 in Hard Rock. With the CBS private one that we're in, that's a $50 entry. We ended up with 94 entries in that. We only lost 2 last week, so we're playing for like $4,700 in that one. So we're down to 92 picks, the entries that are still left this week in that one. So we're just trying to get a little different. Now, how each contest differs, as I've said in other podcasts, Circa, of course, is 20 weeks because they add week 13A, which is your 3 Thanksgiving Day games, and then Black Friday. And then Hard Rock also adds that 19th week, which is the Thanksgiving, Black Friday. Circa also has the Christmas Day games, the 3 games on Christmas. And then the private contest that we're in on CBS, it's just a straight 18 weeks. So you can get a little different there, save teams a little bit later because you can use teams at different times there than you can in the other contests. But that's kind of a rundown of our Survivor, where we're at. We're okay. Like I said, we had 11 entries in the 3 contests, and all 11 entries survived. Hopefully we can do that again today. If not, hopefully it's not Circa that takes us out. Hopefully we can stay alive in that one because that's the big one. We're playing for over 18 million in that one. Hopefully we can survive and get through to the end, or at least get to the point in there where we can monetize our picks. That's the goal. Try to get to around Thanksgiving with those, and we'll be able to put some money in our pocket. So. All right, we'll move on. We'll get into my pick 'em. Of course, last week I went 1-3. That didn't go very well for me. I told you. I went with 4 college games and went 1-3. Things just didn't go well. So this week I'm a little different. I got 1 NFL game. I did pick 3 college games. I started off on Friday night. I took Colorado. I felt good about getting the points there on the road at Houston. Didn't work out. They were hanging tough most of the game. They ended up losing 36-20, so I lost my first entry. But then yesterday I picked up 2 wins with Delaware and Old Dominion. Today I have the Eagles -1 playing at the Chiefs. I'm not real high on the Chiefs this year. I think they are struggling. I think they're going to come down to earth a little bit. Wouldn't be surprised if they don't win their division. But to go against Mahomes is pretty tough. But I feel good about the Eagles today. I think they're coming off that extra rest. Of course, the Chiefs are too, but they had to travel back from Brazil, and they're just struggling a little bit. I think their receiver core is in trouble, and I wouldn't be surprised if Philadelphia goes in there and puts a win on the board today. So, but with the pick'em last week in my group, we did end up with 35 people in there. So the weekly prize pool is $175. I had 2 winners last week. My friends Kenny and Ryan both went 4-0. Congratulations to them. They split up the 175 apiece. They each got $87.50. So they got almost their entry back. It's $100 for the season. They're almost back to even in week 1, so still got 17 more weeks. And then we have the end of the season prize pool too. So that's where we are with the pick'em. Hopefully I can get that Eagles win today. And then my fantasy, I do a little bit of daily fantasy. I'm not real big into it. I don't put a lot of money into it. I just like to bet a few games here and there. I told you my picks last week. I was high on Trevor Lawrence. That game was a little crazy because they had the hour and 15-minute rain delay in there against Carolina. This week they're playing up in Cincinnati. Back on the Jaguars again. I kind of like the stack of Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas Jr., and Brenton Strange. You know, the Bengals have trouble with tight ends, as they did last week with Harold Fannin and Njoku. So I think this week Brenton Strange could have a good day. I do like bringing it back with Chase Brown. I think he'll be in the mix. He's going to have several carries. He'll be getting catches out of the backfield. So I think the bring back with him is a good option. I like the Cardinals' defense today. They're playing at home against Carolina. Bryce Young just still struggles. The Carolina Panthers obviously not a very good team, so we'll just kind of pick on their offense today. That's where I stand. Thank you for joining. I hope you can tune in again next week, see how these picks go, and hopefully you survive on to next week. Thank you for joining me.